And welcome back. One thing before we move on to our next animation, which is our jump cycle, we want to first examine to make sure that this animation that we have is sufficient. So to do that, I went ahead and set up the animation with just a 1 second delay between each frames, simply because that's going to allow us to see the animation in a little bit slower presentation so we can look for things that might need to be fixed, any flaws, anything that we can really do to kind of help smooth down that transition. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. I've also included just the sprite layer as just a simple pose. And so if I go ahead and play this, we can watch our animation move, and it looks pretty good, except for it looks almost like something is missing. All right, and that's because we have at one point these legs are both out, but we never have where the legs cross back up. So we can see the leg goes up and then it all of a sudden shoots straight back. So we are missing a pose with our animation, and that's a real quick way for us to see that we need to do something. So I'm actually going to go back to my running layer here, and I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate that layer, and I'm going to call this running layer 3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to that layer, and I want to use my selection tool here to effectively switch the left and right leg operations here. I want it so that way this leg is being kicked up and the other leg is being kicked back. All right, because again, we want to have it so at some point we can have these pieces switching here. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab this selection here, and then I'm going to, I can transform that by having it just flip horizontal. And you notice we, of course, have a flip here. And I'm just going to drag that over to the side here for a second. Deselect that. Grab the other leg that I need. Just have to be careful I don't grab the other leg. Oh, looks like I'm grabbing that. So I might want to move this piece of it without moving the rest of the sprite, which, of course, would require me to maybe just to undo just a little bit more. There we go. Using my move tool, let's just move that over here. Switch back to my marquee tool. Deselect and grab this leg, move tool, and again we can slide that one over, and we're going to do edit, and let's do a transformation with a flip here. Oh, looks like I flipped that the wrong way. There we go. So now there's the back leg there. So that should be this leg moving back. And now we can grab this one. Move tool. All right. Now we may have to do a couple small adjustments here, as you notice. For example, this leg looks like it is too high. So what I'm going to do is actually going to just undo that real quick. Go back to this selection. Bring it down. And now we can go ahead and move this leg into place. And then from here, it's just doing manual adjustments. So for example, when I look at this, I see, oh, this shoe is the wrong way. Well, that's just a matter of just brushing this up with my brush tool. Make sure you have the right color. And so this shoe needs to come out this way. And this shoe probably doesn't need as much of this, so I'm just going to erase that. I also want to make sure I use that darker brown color. So I'm just going to grab this one off the torch to help show the back of this leg coming across here. Because again, I want to show that these are two distinct objects crossing here. So this is one leg right here. And I want to also show that this other leg is coming through here. So I'm going to grab my dark blue, fill some of these zones in. Go to running layer 2, I believe it was, when we had that dark blue. Grab that same color, switch to running layer 3. And let's go ahead and fill in some of that zone here. Again, it's just to help show that there is more than one object in play here, and it helps really to help set these two zones apart, so you're not looking at this and wondering what piece of this person we're actually looking at. And again, you may have to go through and touch up some minor things with some of your shadows. For example, now we can see we have highlights back here when we should have highlights in the front. So I'm going to go ahead and touch up some of that real quick. And same thing here with this leg. We have some darker tones here, so we're just going to go ahead and switch those. All right, and once you have that all done, all you need to do is from here is revisit your animation. So I'm just going to change this back to my sprite layer. And let's just go ahead and add a couple more frames in here. And if I say, okay, here's where he's starting, the next frame then might be not this running layer 1, might be running layer 3, for example. And then this one could be the next frame, and then we could switch back to that kind of in-between stage, which I think was 2. And then we could have that one switch to running layer 3, or running layer 1, sorry. And so now if we play this from the beginning, we can start seeing certain things come here together. I'm actually going to delete this one out and play this frame now. And that looks pretty good. I'm just going to go ahead and change the time settings on these. So instead of 1 second, let's go ahead and just take these down to maybe a 0.2 second delay just to see how this changes. All right, and so now if I play this, you can see we have what looks like a much more natural animation. The only thing we might have to adjust is adjusting that arm on that one layer that we just created here, which is now, of course, a big deal to do. We would just simply go to that layer where right here, and we need to have that arm so it swings backwards. But I'll let you go ahead and do that. But this should be, of course, give you a nice, good, complete animation here. And I will see you next time when we go ahead and start work on our jump animation.